If you're coming from the Inner Harbor, which is that way, and this is Pratt Street, you turn and you come here to the Star-Spangled Banner house. The gates are open, the house is open, there is signage here. And then to get to the museum entrance, you would go up to the glass doors up here. And then her actual home is here, that you get to tour inside of that home. The other home was on the property as well. They used it as a museum before they built this museum in the back. But I'm just going to walk you to the front door so you can see where the gift shop is and the actual museum is. So as we approach, these are handicap accessible doors. There is a lending box here. You leave a book, you take a book, but you can press this button and we can enter into the museum space. And then you can go to the visitor's information desk, which is there. Museum from the courtyard. There is a information desk here. There is if you're a senior, it's an $8 donation to the museum. If you're an adult,
it's $9.
It's $9.
And students, I should say, are 7, and children 6 and under are free.
There you go. And they have a small museum here. This is a Wednesday morning, August the 13th. Mm-hmm. And then once you pay your admission fee, they'll show you a small film with ample seating. And it gives you a good overview of the Battle of Baltimore, Fort McHenry, and Mary Pickersgill, and how she came about designing and creating the flag that we now know as the Star-Spangled Banner. And the flag, there's a couple of things I was not aware of, but the flag is 42 feet on the fly, 30 feet on the rise, and each stripe is 2 feet, and each star from point to point is 2 feet. And I learned that from the movie. So again, this depicts Francis Scott Key on the September 13th, 1814 to the morning of September 14th, 1814, and him alongside who I presume would be Skinner, and then Dr. Beans in the background. And the bombardment lasted around 27 hours on through the night. But prior to this, Dr. Beans was captured by the British. He was treated as a war spy, and this infuriated many influential people in the Baltimore, Washington area because they felt he was a non-combatant. And so Francis Scott Key, with Skinner, an exchange agent, went to a prisoner of war camp, retrieved letters from the British prisoners that were receiving medical aid, and took those letters to Admiral Cochrane and Colburn out in the Chesapeake Bay and started negotiations to release Dr. Beans. During that period of time, Colonel Robert Ross, on the 12th, was marching towards North Point to the eastern approaches of Baltimore, and they would have small skirmishes with Maryland militia, but then he was shot by a sniper, and then Colonel Brooks took over. He was a capable military man, but he was very reserved. So he pulled his troops back, and this is September 12th, and he waited for help from the British Admiralty, the fleet, to assist. Help did not come. So they encamped along the Chesapeake, and then the bombardment on the 13th started occurring. During this period of time, Francis Scott Key, the reason why him and Skinner and Dr. Beans, even though they negotiated a fair release, they overheard the plans of the attack of Baltimore and Fort McHenry. So they were not allowed to leave. So the bombardment went through the course of the night. You could see what was happening from Baltimore. The lights, the red glare of the rockets, the bombs bursting overhead. And then the morning of the 14th, as the fog lifted, Armistead fired a salute cannon. He lowered the storm flag that was made of wool and was wet and heavy lacing, so you couldn't really see it clearly. And then they raised the Star-Spangled Banner, which indicated to the British that Fort McHenry was still occupied by the Americans and they would not give it up. And so then the Admiralty weighed anchor and they sailed out of the Chesapeake. This was a huge turning point of the War of 1812, because literally in the same year, on December 24th, in Belgium, the British signed a treaty with the Americans to end the war. December 24th, 1814, within 3 months of the Battle of Fort McHenry, the war was over, because the British knew that this young nation would survive, and they were a formidable opponent that they were not going to be able to defeat. So now we're going to walk over to Mary Pickersgill's home to see where she actually created the flag. Here there's a QR code that you can scan and it will describe everything within the house. So, which is great, especially with people with visual impairments that cannot read the signage. You'll have an audible depiction right there.
Right.
So they do have accessible wheelchair features to open the doors, forward and rear of the doors, which is great. Once you press one, it opens both. You also have a lending box here. That is nice. They have a book lending box. I could have brought one of my books there. And this is the garden area. And this is a depiction of the size of the flag that would have been there. So 30 feet by 42 feet. And you got a nice quad area through here. We might walk over here and see, so you get a good view of the grounds. This is a nice map of the United States. And we are currently roughly there in Baltimore. And we're going to tour inside this home here. So make sure when you come, go towards the large flag to the glass doors, and that'll lead you into the visitor center. There is sitting areas out here. It is brick, so it's uneven surfaces, rose bushes, slight uphill. Make a right turn. And then, as you can see, she indicated the door. I'm 5'6", and I am going to bump my head stepping in this door. But I make sure I'm going to lower myself down. So now that we have an open door, we're going to come in, and I'm going to have to duck as I enter. You can feel air conditioning here. We're going to step down, and I'm just going to push the door to. And this would have been her kitchen area. And this was the house that she occupied during the time Armistead, when she returned back from Philadelphia. Her husband had died in London. So she came back to Philadelphia and then back to Baltimore. But this was the kitchen area, and you can see open fire. All right, cast iron. And then we're going to go into this small room here, which looks like the dining area. So remember, there is a phone number or a QR code that you can call, and you will get narrations. And if you notice that there's numbers that you would input, and it would tell you, kind of like an audio tour, but you do it through your phone. Dining area, creaky floors. The front door. And then, so this is a depiction of the Star-Spangled Banner being made. And if you see, the star is 2 feet by point by point. Small sitting area, office space. She would not have been able to create the entire flag in this space because it was 42 feet by 30 feet. So just north of here, maybe a block, was an old brewery, or a brewery. And she used the floor space underneath that brewery, her with other seamstresses, to create the flag. And again, you see there's a number there. Heavy wool flag. But we are only maybe 2.5 blocks from the Inner Harbor. And we're going to go upstairs because I don't see a rope saying you can't. So this is not accessible because it's a historic home. Another series of steps. Very, very large bedroom. Very large bedroom. With mosquito netting. Fireplace. Piano. So Mary's Pickersgill, her main job here in Baltimore was creating flags for naval ships and military organizations. And that's how she funded her living. But she had money because of the work that her husband and his businesses. So she was not destitute. But she did want to return back to Baltimore, of familiar surroundings, and lay her talents in creating more income for her. It's another bedroom, slightly smaller. Again, with a fireplace. So there is an upper loft area, but that is roped off. We're not permitted to go up. And then we're going to go to the back side of the house, or the north side of the house. And this is a third bedroom. So on the second level, she had 3 bedrooms in this home. Little desk area, wardrobe, smaller fireplace. So I can imagine it took her 6 weeks to create the flag, and there would have been material probably everywhere, and she probably would have sewn at least the stars onto the blue field in this area, and then the stripes would have been at the other place, and then she would marry them together. But I could just imagine with the people coming in and out of the home, and Armistead coming to see the progress of the flag, maybe having tea, discussing her design. Them cooking dinner. So you have the smell of smoke, this thing, and then breads and meats cooking. One thing I have not noticed is an inside preview. There's also probably a sub-basement that they would store wood or coal. So I'm gonna try to walk back this way for just a moment. So Mary did not occupy this house until 1807, and they were renting the home. And it wasn't until 1820 that she became the homeowner of the house. So there's another little side history. I do love this American flag here on the ground. This is really cool. But there's the house, and I'm going to walk around to show you the front of it. It's a little noisy. It's a busy street through here. I'm just going to pause that so you can read that if you wish. And then we're going to walk across the corner so you can get an exterior view of what her house looks like. So we're going to exit out on Pratt Street. So this is the house on the corner, and we toured the first level and second level of that house, unable to go up to the loft area. And this was her home. I'm gonna try to not get hit by a car.